We all know that one girl who is completely addicted to walking red flags. Suyeon is exactly that girl. After a traumatic past, she secretly gets bored of her current boyfriend because he's just too perfect. He cooks, he cleans, and he treats her like an absolute queen. But Suyeon secretly craves a bad boy. Be careful what you wish for, because a dangerously seductive ghost just possessed her sweet boyfriend's body. Overnight, her innocent angel transforms into a silver-haired, arrogant rebel who looks at her with pure, intoxicating. She knows she needs to lift the curse to save her boyfriend, but she is dangerously addicted to the ghost. This is Be a Bad Guy. The ghost presses a spatula firmly into the heart-shaped fried rice, the sizzle filling the air as he thinks to himself, now's the right time. Suyeon looks up from her spoon, confused. Eat it now? The fried rice isn't even scorched yet. He looks at her with a heavy gaze. No, he says, his voice flat. Now's the perfect time to break up. The cheerful atmosphere shatters. Suyeon stares, completely stunned. He apologizes, his silver hair framing a somber face. No matter how hard I try, I just don't feel anything. She dismisses it as a joke, asking who says something like that while cooking. He explains that if they went home, he'd just keep putting it off. Suyeon's mind flashes back to a past relationship, a feverish cycle that devolved into domestic work and consuming passion. The ghost's voice slices through her memory, cold and dismissive. So what, he says. You said you liked it. Suyeon looks up, her eyes wide with shock, and quietly admits he's right. The tension in the room is thick, with onlookers expecting her to finally erupt. Instead, her composure completely shatters. Tears stream down her face as she gazes at him, her silent, heartbreaking plea hanging in the air. Through her tears, Suyeon insists she doesn't hate him, even after his harsh words. The ghost just smirks, asking if she could truly go back to his place, back to their private moments, and pretend this never happened. Yes, she cries, desperate. I can do that. He flatly refuses, but then his hand slides across the table. He calls her name, his fingers gently lifting her chin. The air between them crackles with a sudden, intense heat as he leans in, murmuring that he isn't that kind of person. Confused by his actions, Suyeon asks why he accepted her in the first place. He scoffs, his gaze turning cold. Because you had a stunning figure? Suyeon jolts awake with a raw gasp, lashing out in her sleep. She sits up in a daze, sunlight streaming into the room as she dazedly wonders what time it is. Her boyfriend appears at her bedside, a gentle apron tied around his waist. What's wrong, Suyeon? He asks, his voice soft with concern. Did you have a nightmare? A wave of relief washes over her. Thank God, it was really just a dream, she thinks. He explains he was cooking and made fried rice. Her relief vanishes. So that's why, she murmurs. Didn't you say you don't like fried rice? He asks innocently. Her expression twists into a chilling, manic grin. Suyeon's strange mood melts into pure mischief. She wraps her arms around her boyfriend from behind, startling him as he cooks. Why are you acting like this again? He asks, flustered. Her request is bold. We're absolutely nothing but the apron. He thinks she must be joking, but her intense gaze says otherwise. She playfully pushes him onto the bed, the air growing thick with anticipation. He is so different from her controlling ex. As Suyeon leans in, ready to close the distance, the sharp ring of the doorbell shatters the moment. The sharp ring of the doorbell shatters the moment. It's a writer from his company. As Jae-hyun takes the professional call, Suyeon fumes silently, annoyed by the interruption. Her thoughts drift to the very webtoon he manages, a story about an intensely devoted male lead, a type she secretly finds thrilling. Once he hangs up, the air shifts. He silently corners her against the counter, his presence overwhelming. Why shouldn't we finish what we started? He murmurs, his voice low. Flustered, she suggests the bedroom, but he just grabs a small, foil square from the counter, his gaze intense. No. He tears the small wrapper open with his teeth, a playful smirk on his face. Suyeon's breath catches. She likes this feeling, this sudden spark of assertive energy from him. But her mind drifts, recalling how their stable, peaceful relationship sometimes feels too tame. He is so gentle, always asking for permission, even for a simple kiss. Her thoughts betray her, revealing a hidden, troubling desire. She's drawn to being guided with absolute dominance. She tries to dismiss the feeling, telling herself that for a future together, choosing someone stable like him is the right decision. Memories of a past flame burn through Suyeon's mind, a man whose possessive nature was both exhausting and intoxicating. Frustrated, she tries to push the thoughts away, pulling her sweet boyfriend closer and trying to convince herself his gentle warmth is all she needs. She understands why she can't let go. Old wounds from that time never closed, her mind twisting pain into something alluring. Suyeon steals her heart, determined to leave it all behind. But then, a low voice cuts through the air. A man with silver hair and a confident smirk appears. "Nice to meet you." A man in a sharp suit beams, introducing himself as Han Hee-ju, the new team leader for the project. Suyeon's heart plummets. The big industry name they hired is her ex-boyfriend, the very man haunting her thoughts. Later that night, she tries to slip away from a company dinner, but a low voice stops her. Han Hee-ju corners her in a quiet alley. She demands he speak formally, insisting they are strangers. He scoffs, his eyes intense. "You want us to act like we're meeting for the first time?" he asks, grabbing her and pulling her close. "Fine, let's not." Han Hee-ju's voice is a low challenge. "If we didn't just meet, then what are we?" Painful memories flash through Suyeon's mind, a past she desperately wants to erase. "Please," she begs, stepping back, "just pretend you don't know me." He scoffs at her plea, dropping his cool facade and taking a step forward. Closing the distance in an instant, he cups her cheek, the sudden warmth making her breath catch. "I can't cooperate," he murmurs, his eyes locked on hers. "I can't forget you." A curse echoes in Suyeon's thoughts. 6 years ago, Suyeon bursts into a restaurant, her eyes immediately finding the silver-haired man, Han Hee-ju. Her friend pulls her aside, exasperated. "How did you even find us?" Suyeon explains her method of tracking them through social media, a confession that makes her friend shiver and warn her that people are calling her a stalker. Ignoring the caution, Suyeon's hand shoots up when Han Hee-ju asks who's stepping outside for some air. Outside in the alley, he turns to her, leaning casually against the wall, and coolly asks, "Need a breather?" Suyeon waves her hands frantically, her cheeks flushed as she insists she just came out for the fresh air. A friend of the silver-haired man tells him to take a hint, but he just smirks. The alley outside disappears, and the scene shifts to his apartment. He lifts her effortlessly against the wall, her arms winding around his neck as their connection deepens in the charged silence. "How could you just follow me when I said we should drink more at my place?" he whispers. Breathless, she replies that because he invited her, she couldn't possibly say no. His voice is low as he asks if she does this with just anyone, pointing out how obvious she's been. Suyeon trembles, her mind racing. "But, wait," she stammers, looking up at him with wide, vulnerable eyes. "If we do this, then are we dating?" He dismisses the idea, asking if they need to be. Panicked, she shouts that of course they do. It's her first real relationship, and she won't take things further without a real commitment. He looks surprised. A moment passes before he sighs, saying there's been a misunderstanding. "I guess we're dating," he concedes. Joy lights up her face. In a hazy, intimate memory, Suyeon watches the silver-haired man, her cheeks flushed. She quietly calls him Sunbae, her voice soft as she suggests something she read online, another way for them to connect. But the tender moment twists into a nightmare. Her face contorts in a silent, horrified gasp as the memory sours. Suyeon is overcome with distress, catching her breath by the bathroom sink. Her boyfriend, startled in the kitchen, rushes to her side, his face full of concern. She realizes it was just a dream about her past, triggered by yesterday's events. The silver-haired man's voice still echoes in her mind, haunting her. In the warm light of morning, Suyeon sits up, her head in her hand as a tray of food is placed before her. She looks at the impressive spread and asks if her boyfriend, Jahyun, prepared it all. He smiles gently, explaining he wanted to cheer her up after she came home in a bad mood. His expression turns serious as he recalls how scared he was when she began crying in her sleep. Suyeon takes a bite of toast, her eyes downcast. She knows she can't tell him the real reason. He would only worry. The new team leader smiles, telling his captivated colleagues his ideal type is a woman who peels fruit well. The thinner the skin, the better. As they swoon over his flawless behavior and quirky charm, A dark cloud forms over Suyeon, who trails behind them. One co-worker sighs, admitting she's deeply jealous of his ex-girlfriend. The words strike a nerve. "I'm not jealous." Suyeon silently fumes, her hand trembling. Her frustration boils over as she slumps in defeat, feeling her composure fray. Just then, her gaze falls on a small box holding cat charms that grant wishes. Suyeon clutches a small, glowing cat charm, a desperate purchase to guard her heart. She closes her eyes and makes a wish, praying for her troublesome team leader to leave her be. But her plea backfires. The office gossip intensifies, with coworkers whispering that she is the team leader's ideal type. They point to his daily visits and protective gestures as clear signs of his interest. Suyeon crushes a soda can under her hand, forcing a hollow laugh as the pressure mounts. The speculation leaves her sitting alone in a dark movie theater, her expression unreadable. The 4DX seats rumble, but Suyeon is the one who feels truly shaken. She sits in the dark theater, grappling with a guilty conscience for thinking of another man while her handsome boyfriend is right there. A sudden buzz from his watch shatters the moment. He leans in close, whispering that a rider called and he needs to step outside. Suyeon's expression hardens. He's on annual leave. As he walks away, her heart aches with a familiar disappointment, remembering all the times his kindness extended to everyone else, leaving her feeling forgotten. Tears well in her eyes. In the bright lobby, he finds Suyeon and offers a gentle apology for leaving. "What's the point of watching it alone?" she asks, her voice laced with an old disappointment. He smiles, asking what he can do to soothe his sad girlfriend. Her gaze hardens. "Kiss me." A storm brews inside her. She doesn't just want a kiss. She craves a desperate, all-consuming embrace. Her mind flashes with the image of an intense, possessive man. But her boyfriend just pulls her into a soft hug and places a tender kiss on her forehead. Disappointment hits her again. "I'm wavering," Suyeon thinks, her heart heavy as she watches him on the phone. He's so kind and accommodating to everyone else. Why is he the most indifferent to her, the person he's supposed to marry? A desperate plea forms in her mind. "Hold on to me. Please, give me some reassurance." At the office, a colleague explains that the persistent writer wouldn't stop contacting Jahyun, forcing him to work from home. On the other end of the line, the writer smiles, her purple eyes wide and intense. "I'd like a face-to-face meeting," she says cheerfully, announcing she's on her way. At her graduation presentation, a student named Haeyoung passionately pitches her project as a feminist message about ideal proportions. A professor raises his hand, cutting through her jargon to ask if her plan is to simply draw handsome guys. Lost in a reverie of beautifully drawn men, Haeyoung's face lights up with a brilliant smile as she enthusiastically confirms, "Yes." A large red stamp brands her with the word "failed." Later, at a restaurant, she furiously slams her cup down. She rants to her friend, accusing the professor of rejecting her work because of his own insecurities. Her friend calmly retorts that she understands the professor, pointing out that Haeyoung has only ever drawn handsome guys for every single assignment. She questions if Haeyoung really expected to pass just by saying her subject was hot. Her friend cuts through Haeyoung's complaints with a brilliant suggestion. She should draw a webtoon instead. She insists that a story filled with the handsome men Haeyoung draws would absolutely make readers' hearts flutter. Haeyoung hesitates, but her friend points out that since she has to take a leave of absence, she might as well use the time to draw what she loves. The idea ignites something within Haeyoung. A warm blush spreads across her face as her imagination lights up, surrounding her in a dreamy, pink glow. She licks her lips, considering the possibility. Should I? A man, the perfect embodiment of her taste, appears in her thoughts. He runs a hand through his dark hair and smiles warmly, introducing himself as Shin Jahyun, a producer from Kinggiver Webtoon. The fantasy feels too real. Her eyes widen and a deep blush floods her cheeks as the impossible situation crashes down on her. Back in reality, at an artist gathering, her friends question her sanity for developing feelings for her own producer. They agree he's perfect, but another artist delivers the final blow. PD Shin has a girlfriend. A rival's post flashes across the screen, boasting about her professional attitude, next to a photo with him. Suyeon's face darkens, her world shrinking to the glowing phone. Her fingers tremble as she types out a cheerful, hollow comment. while her own mind screams at her. Why should she pretend to be cool? The question triggers a painful memory, a ghost from her past. The image of a silver-haired man surfaces, his voice sharp and cold as he dismissed her feelings. A chill traces her spine as his final words echo through her thoughts. I don't like it. The memory of the silver-haired man is sharp and cold. Tears fill Suyeon's eyes as she confronts him, pleading with him to stop talking to another woman privately. I'm your girlfriend, she whispers, her voice breaking. He leans in, his expression unyielding as he dismisses her fears. His touch is possessive, a stark contrast to his cold words as he offers a cruel choice. Let it go, or they are done. The scene blurs, the air growing heavy. He moves closer, ignoring her quiet hesitation, his presence entirely overwhelming her senses. The memory is thick with tension. Suyeon sits up in bed, her eyes wide with unease as she asks him to stop. The silver-haired man simply gets up, pulling his shirt on with his back turned to her. She tries to explain that she isn't sulking, but he's already walking away. He announces he's going for a late-night drive, leaving her alone in the silent room. Suyeon jolts awake at her desk, the memory fading like a bad dream. She grips her hair, her mind racing. You're insane, she scolds herself, desperately trying to concentrate on her work. Focus. A coworker's voice cuts through Suyeon's exhaustion, asking if she's all right. Suyeon forces a smile, but her colleague points out the deep, dark circles under her eyes. Blaming her fatigue on a big corporate contract, Suyeon turns away, but a sudden chill runs through her. Her team leader suggests she go home early, but she refuses, determined to see the results. As she pivots to walk away, she suddenly stumbles. In a swift motion, he catches her, pulling her firmly against him. The unexpected warmth of his body sends a jolt through her. He holds her close, his voice a low murmur against her hair. She's shaking, he observes, from a mix of nerves and exhaustion. The solid warmth of his body steadies her, but her mind drifts away. She recalls a recent text from her boyfriend, full of gentle encouragement and promises to celebrate later. His unwavering positivity flashes through her memory, the too kind, always positive Shin Jae-hyun. And that, she realizes with a sudden, sinking clarity, is precisely why he's so boring. At home, her boyfriend waits with a soft, welcoming smile, completely unaware. He greets her warmly as she steps through the door, asking if her presentation went well. Suyeon's reply is a cold, flat no. She confronts him, questioning why he has to be so blindly nice all the time. His gentle expression shifts to one of utter confusion. He asks if she had a hard day, apologizing for a wrong he doesn't understand. That's the final straw. With a cry that she can't take it anymore, Suyeon throws her arms around him. Tears stream down her face as she confesses. She's sick of his constant kindness. Suyeon remembers that night, consumed by a desperate wish. How could he not understand a woman's heart? Just once, she wanted him to act like the intense, unpredictable men from her stories. In her frustration, she decided to leave, unaware her wish was about to be granted in the strangest way. Now, Suyeon's world is a blur of sudden heat. A soft gasp escapes her as he looms over her in bed. His eyes, once so gentle, now hold a sharp, unfamiliar fire. He leans in, a confident smirk on his lips as he playfully tugs at the edge of her collar. A few years ago, Suyeon was a mess, unable to move on after being dumped by Han Hee-ju. Her friend finds her huddled under a blanket, looking completely drained. Stop thinking about that heartless jerk, her friend scolds, frustrated that Suyeon still spends her weekends this way. She insists Suyeon needs to find a new guy. Through tears, Suyeon confesses her heart still belongs to her ex. Fed up, her friend decides this won't do. She points decisively, announcing, "You need to go on a blind date." And so, Suyeon ends up at a restaurant, where a gentle voice asks if she'd like the steak set. Suyeon shyly agrees to the meal, looking up at the man across the table. His name is Shin Jae-hyun, and she notes he's handsome in a soft, gentle way, a stark contrast to her ex. As they talk, she learns he's a webtoon producer. Her polite demeanor shatters with excitement when he mentions a series she adores. Carried away, she lists her favorites before catching herself with an embarrassed laugh. She then confesses that after her breakup, those very stories were her only comfort. The memory is still raw, and tears begin to fall. Mortified, Suyeon offers a flustered apology, certain she's ruined the date. But Shin Jae-hyun simply smiles, a warmth spreading from his gentle expression. "No," he says, finding her honesty nice. He leans closer across the table, his presence suddenly more intense. He confesses he was already interested after seeing her photo, but meeting her is even better. Suyeon's eyes widen, her heart fluttering at his words. He looks at her intently, the air growing thick with unspoken potential. "If you're all right with it," he asks softly, "should we try dating?" A year together unfolds in a whirlwind of sweet memories, a selfie under cherry blossoms, playful beach days, and quiet, shared holidays. Their bond deepens with each passing moment. Now, in a luxurious hotel room, the air is thick with warmth. Shin Jae-hyun emerges fresh from the shower, his robe loosely tied. He smiles, telling Suyeon how impressive the new hotel is. He sits beside her, asking what she was doing in the quiet room. Her shy reply of "nothing much" only seems to draw him closer, his gaze intense as their lips meet. The warmth of the room envelopes them as Shin Jae-hyun gently guides Suyeon onto the bed. Lost in the moment, she whispers his name, giving him a soft, heartfelt invitation. He freezes, his eyes wide with a sweet, flustered disbelief, asking if she truly means it. After her quiet confirmation, his touch is hesitant, almost shy. But then he stops. His entire demeanor shifts, his voice suddenly laced with a cold, unfamiliar demand. "Wait," he orders, his words sharp. "Show me you truly mean it." Utterly confused, Suyeon stammers an apology as a dark, haunting image flashes, a lone figure and a tragic end. Suyeon's mind races, her heart pounding with a confusing mix of admiration and longing. His physique is impressive, more so than she imagined, yet a question echoes in her mind. Why does she crave something more? The gentle atmosphere shatters as he moves closer, sudden and overwhelming. "Wait a moment," she whispers, her voice filled with surprise. This feels so sudden, but her hesitation melts away under his intense gaze. He holds her firmly against the mattress, a daring smirk playing on his lips as his breathing deepens. "Suyeon," he begins, his voice bold and unfamiliar. "You say you're too shy?" He leans closer, his voice a low whisper, taunting her for being so particular. Suyeon's breath catches, her mind reeling from the sudden, aggressive shift in his demeanor. The world dissolves into a heated blur as her hands press into the sheets. Then, just as suddenly, the coldness vanishes. It's him again, his gentle, worried eyes searching hers. "Suyeon," he asks softly, "are you all right? Should I stop?" A single tear escapes as she looks at him, her heart pounding. She pulls him closer. "No, don't," she whispers, her resolve firm. "It's fine." He leans close, his voice a soft whisper, asking her to be sure to tell him if anything is too much. But a conflicting desire burns within Suyeon. Her fingers dig into his arm as her mind races for something more, something far more intense. The memory of a reckless past intrudes on this gentle moment. The scene dissolves, leaving Suyeon sitting alone on a swing, sighing under the dark night sky. She stares at her phone, where she's confessed her guilt to an AI. The chatbot's validation sparks a flash of comical anger. How can a program understand her when she can't? The frustration quickly fades, replaced by a quiet realization. Of course, her boyfriend isn't an AI, perfectly tailored to her every hidden preference. Sighing on the swing, Suyeon admits to herself that her expectations are unreasonable. He isn't some perfect hero from a story. She resolves to go back and apologize. Quietly, she slips into the bedroom where her boyfriend lies with his back to her. She gets into bed, her voice a soft whisper as she apologizes for being harsh. "Won't you look at me?" she asks, leaning closer. Suddenly, his hand snaps back, gripping her arm with surprising force. Suyeon freezes, her eyes widening in shock as a chilling tension fills the air. In a swift, fluid motion, he turns and pins Suyeon to the bed. Her eyes widen, shocked by the sudden change. His voice is dangerously low as he dismisses her apology. Just that. He leans in, telling her that if she truly wants to make it up to him, she needs to put in real effort. Suyeon's mind races in confusion. Her kind, accommodating boyfriend has never acted this way. Her heart hammers in her chest. Before she can react, he loosens his collar, his intense gaze never leaving her face. Suyeon reflects on the classic bad guy archetype. He's a man who loves to the point of madness, but his clumsy affection leads to hurt, followed by deep regret. That regret then transforms into an overwhelming obsession, a love that binds them together. Her thoughts sharpen, crystallizing into a specific desire. She wants someone whose gaze is fixed only on her, to an extreme degree. The image of her boyfriend materializes in her mind, his physique illuminated by a soft glow as he runs a hand through damp hair. That is the kind of man. Suyeon lies on the bed, looking up as her boyfriend stands over her. He asks what kind of effort she wants. Confused, she murmurs, "A kiss?" It's what they always do to make up. A strange smirk crosses his lips as he leans down. His expression is different, more intense than usual. He moves closer, and instead of a gentle touch, his hand firmly covers hers, his grip forceful and possessive. A current of surprise jolts through her. This is not the man she knows. His tone is domineering. Suyeon's eyes widen in disbelief. A wild thought flashes through her mind. Is he getting back at her for demanding he act like an intense comic book hero? Her heart hammers as she looks up at him, a deep blush spreading across her cheeks. Flustered, she stammers a question, asking how far he intends to go. A smirk plays on his lips as he tells her she shouldn't keep provoking him. His hand tightens its grip over hers, a possessive gesture that sends a shiver through her. He leans in, his voice low, promising to continue until he's satisfied. The shock on Suyeon's face melts into a dazed, thrilled smile. A soft whisper escapes Suyeon's lips as she tells him to do whatever he wants. The air in the room grows heavy with a palpable heat as he leans down, his touch possessive. His lips meet hers in a deep, consuming kiss that steals her breath away. Her thoughts spin. This is nothing like their usual gentle moments. This is deeper, more demanding, a fiery connection that pulls her under completely. As their intimacy deepens, an overwhelming realization floods her mind. It feels like she is being completely devoured by his passion. A wave of heat washes over Suyeon, and a soft sigh escapes her lips. His touch is different, more demanding than she has ever known. She notes his persistence, the possessive way his grip tightens as he holds her close. He pulls her into another consuming kiss that leaves her breathless and dazed. Muffled sounds are all she can manage as her thoughts dissolve into pure sensation. She feels herself melting under his touch, completely overwhelmed by the fiery passion that threatens to devour her whole. He pulls back, a confident smirk playing on his lips as he gazes down at her flushed face. "Seems you like the kiss," he observes. Suyeon's thoughts spin in a haze. This is completely different from usual. She wonders if her gentle Shin Jae-hyun was ever capable of such intense roleplay, knowing he never initiates things this way. He moves closer, his presence overwhelming. As his embrace grows much bolder, a soft gasp escapes her lips. His low, intimate whisper confirms her body's eager response, sending a tremor through her entire being. Suyeon's protest is a faint whisper. "Wait," she breathes, but he doesn't stop. A tremor runs through her as he reminds her that this is exactly what she fantasizes about, just like the heroes in her stories. He leans in close, his voice a low murmur against her ear, explaining that she likes being completely swept away. He speaks of making her wait, of pushing her to the very edge of anticipation. Overwhelmed by the intense feelings, Suyeon can only let out ragged breaths, her mind a complete haze as she lies defeated beneath him. Suyeon breathes out his name, her face flushed with heat. He leans in, his expression intense as he asks why she isn't calling him Appa. Confused, she reminds him he allowed casual speech, but his hand drifts, sending a jolt through her. "I changed my mind," he declares, his voice leaving no room for argument. His eyes lock onto hers, a possessive fire burning within them as his embrace deepens even further. "I want to hear you call me Appa," he demands. A soft sound escapes her lips, lost in the overwhelming sensation. A wave of intense heat washes over Suyeon. Her back arches, a soft cry escaping her lips as every defense crumbles. The world dissolves into pure sensation, a relentless rhythm that leaves her completely breathless and overwhelmed. All she can do is surrender to the feeling, her voice breaking as she calls out his name, "Jae-hyun Appa." Afterward, she lies still beneath him, her mind reeling in the quiet aftermath. She realizes with a jolt that this is the first time he has brought her to such a breathtaking peak with his intense presence alone. Suyeon lies back, face flushed as she tries to process the overwhelming moment. Her thoughts race. Did her words somehow trigger this intense awakening in him? She thinks they should talk, but he quickly closes the distance between them. He leans over her, a knowing smirk on his lips. "Why are you resting like it's already over?" he asks. Suyeon stares in confusion. He flashes a daring, confident smile. His gaze is a steady fire as he declares, "I'll keep going until I'm completely satisfied." He flashes that same daring smile, his eyes locking with hers as he reminds Suyeon that he will continue until he is fully satisfied. He extends his hand, his voice low and commanding as he asks her to take the lead. Suyeon can only stare back, her mind racing and a deep blush creeping up her cheeks. Her hands tremble slightly as she accepts. The air grows heavy with unspoken intensity as she finds herself before him. A confusing thought crosses her mind. This isn't a new experience, yet everything feels impossibly different, more overwhelming. Suyeon's breath catches in her throat. She tries to speak his name, a desperate plea to wait, but he gives her no time. A sudden, overwhelming closeness steals the air from her lungs. Her mind reels. This intensity is immediate, far deeper than she could have prepared for. Overwhelmed by the sensation, she arches back, her thoughts scattering. A single, traitorous feeling rises through the haze. This is good. His hand gently turns her face toward his voice a low command. "Where are you looking?" he asks, demanding her complete and undivided attention. "Look at me," he commands, his voice a low whisper that sinks into her skin. "Focus on this." His hand holds her face, tilting it so her gaze can only meet his intense one. The air between them feels charged, impossibly warm, and the rest of the world fades into a blur. A confusing thought breaks through the haze. She's been in her boyfriend's arms countless times before, but this feels completely new. Why? She wonders. Does this one embrace feel more passionate than anything she has ever known? Suyeon's breath catches, her voice a fragile whisper against his skin. "I can't go anymore. I can't do it." But her words only seem to fuel his intensity. A low, satisfied sound escapes his lips. "Good," he murmurs, his own voice thick with emotion. It feels so good. He holds her closer, his promise a dark caress. "I'll make you feel even better." A jolt of pure heat rushes through her, and she arches back, a gasp escaping her as the world dissolves into overwhelming sensation. The world melts away into a haze of raw heat and overwhelming sensation. Every beat, every movement sends a tremor through Suyeon, pulling breathless sounds from her lips. She whispers his name, a desperate praise lost in the intoxicating rhythm they share. A brilliant, white-hot light seems to burst between them, a supernova of pure feeling that consumes everything. Afterwards, she lies spent, tears of unrestrained emotion tracing silent paths down her flushed cheeks as she struggles to catch her breath, utterly and completely undone by the intensity of their connection. Suyeon lies in a blissful haze, her thoughts replaying the incredible feeling. He rises from the bed and grabs a water bottle, his own mind trying to process the night's intensity, admitting to himself that it felt almost too good. Suyeon sits up abruptly, clutching the sheet to her chest. "Do you want some water?" she asks tentatively. He turns, a slow, confident smirk on his face. "Whatever, dummy," he says, his voice a low tease as he sits beside her. "Give me some water too." He leans in, closing the space between them. He closes the distance, sharing the water in a way that steals her breath and sends a jolt through her system. Suyeon shoves him back, her face burning with color. "What are you doing?" she cries, flustered by his audacious move. He stands, and the charged atmosphere suddenly shifts. The teasing smirk is gone, replaced by the familiar, gentle expression of her original boyfriend. He looks down at her with a serious, almost troubled gaze. "To be honest," he says quietly, "my tone hasn't returned yet." Suyeon freezes, the words echoing in the silent room. A chilling confusion washes over her as she stares up at him, her mind reeling. "What?" she whispers, completely lost. At the office, Suyeon's colleagues murmur with concern. They recall she looked unwell the day before, noting that her team leader, Heju, kindly sent her home. Now, with both of them absent, they hope everything is alright. But Suyeon isn't resting. She walks numbly down a street beside her boyfriend, her mind racing. She replays a montage of frustrating doctor visits, brain scans, psychiatric evaluations, all of which found nothing unusual. Exhausted and out of options, she walks with a heavy heart, wondering what on earth is truly wrong with him. Her hands fly to his jacket, desperately trying to shake some sense into him. He glances down, his tone laced with ice. "Don't look so disheveled," he says coolly. "It bothers me." The coldness of his words sends a tremor through her, and she shoves him back. "This is your fault," she cries out, her composure finally breaking. He watches her, unfazed, and calmly explains that he lost control of his words and actions right after she left him the day before. His expression grows heavy and ominous. To put it metaphorically, he concludes, it feels like he's been cursed. The word echoes in the sudden silence, and Suyeon freezes, horror dawning in her wide eyes. Suyeon covers her face, completely exhausted. She tries to reason with him, insisting he's just stressed and that curses only happen in webtoons. But that single word, webtoon, sparks a chilling flashback. She recalls a drunken night, her own frustrated words echoing in her mind, a desperate wish for him to be more like the intense male leads from her stories. The realization hits her with stunning force. A cold sweat beads on her forehead as her eyes widen in sheer terror. Her hand clutches her jacket as a single, devastating thought takes root. Is this all because of me? Suyeon's mind races, replaying the recent chaos. She remembers her frustration, the harsh words she used with her boyfriend, and the unsettling feeling that something is deeply wrong with him. Letting out a long, desperate sigh, she sits on a bench, shaking her head. It couldn't be that her wish made him act so strange, right? Then, she glances at her phone. An article from the previous night pops up. A miraculous meteor shower. The words shooting stars and wishes stop her cold. A brilliant, star-filled sky flashes in her memory, and the chilling realization hits. Did she really make a wish? No way. Suyeon breathes, her mind rejecting the impossible thought. If wishes really came true, the whole country's desires from the meteor shower would have been granted. She tries to dismiss her boyfriend's odd behavior as stress, but her rationalization is cut short. Her gaze falls to a small kitty charm in her hand. Something is wrong. Was its eye always this color? She wonders, staring at the unnatural, glowing blue gem. Suddenly, he stands over her, his voice cool and impatient. He suggests going home, then stops. "No," he says with a smirk. "Let's visit one more place." A sudden realization hits Suyeon, the gift shop where she bought the charm. She believes answers must lie there. Her hope, however, quickly vanishes. At a nearby nail salon, the technician informs her the shop next door went bankrupt. She gossips about the strange owners, who spoke of cursed, magical items just before they disappeared. The technician's focus then shifts, and she sighs dreamily. "Your boyfriend is really sweet, waiting for you like this." The words trigger a memory, a warm, aching image of the gentle man he used to be, sitting patiently. The nail technician laughs, telling Suyeon she shouldn't worry about strange shops with a boyfriend like hers. Suyeon forces a smile. He's the entire problem. Her hope sinks when the technician's only clue is that the shop owner moved to some island. Later, as the sun sets, Suyeon collapses onto her couch, utterly defeated. She's wasted time and money, and is no closer to an answer. Suddenly, a warmth spreads across her skin. A hand sweeps her long hair from her neck, and a shiver runs down her spine. "You," she whispers, frozen in place. The ghost leans over Suyeon, his voice a low whisper. "Do you really hate that I've changed?" She retorts that she does, reminding him that his body moves on its own. He scoffs, admitting he dislikes someone else holding his controls. The word freezes her. A sudden, heated memory of their passionate night together flashes through her mind, overwhelming her senses. "Yesterday," she stammers, her eyes wide with dawning horror. "Was your body moving on its own, too?" He casually confirms it. Mortified, Suyeon insists her boyfriend would never act that way. "Then how is he?" the ghost whispers, his lips almost touching hers. The ghost leans closer, his gaze smoldering as he slowly pushes Suyeon down onto the couch. "Wait, what are you doing?" she asks, her breath catching in her throat. He just smirks, his voice a low whisper. What else? Just as their faces are inches apart, a phone buzzes loudly on the end table, shattering the charged atmosphere. Suyeon's eyes fly open in relief. "A call," she blurts out. "You should answer it." His expression instantly darkens. With a swift, angry motion, he snatches the phone and slams it onto the floor. Suyeon stares, completely dumbfounded. "What the heck?" she cries, unable to believe he would just cut off a potentially important call. He smirks, his hand tightening on her shoulder as he dismisses her concern. Who makes business calls on a Friday night anyway? His voice suddenly drops, becoming smoother, more intimate. Besides, he murmurs, his fingers gently brushing her cheek, "I want to spend this time focused on my girlfriend." Her breath catches. The tender words remind her of someone else entirely, her actual boyfriend, the ever-kind Shin Jae-hyun, whose gentle nature feels a world away. A wave of heat rushes through Suyeon as he pulls her into a deep, consuming embrace. The world fades away, and a single, traitorous thought surfaces in her mind. She likes it. She clings to him, trying to rationalize the sudden change in his personality. This feels better than before. As they are lost in their moment, urgent messages light up a phone screen. A frantic colleague needs to reach producer Shin about a deadline, their ignored texts escalating from worried to angry. Elsewhere, a woman stares at her phone in fury. "This is making me furious." The sun gleams off the glass facade of a modern skyscraper as a new work week begins. Suyeon strides confidently down the office hallway, a bright, refreshed smile on her face. She thinks to herself what a great weekend it was, but now it's time to focus. A fleeting, unpleasant memory surfaces, causing her to flinch, but she quickly dismisses it with a wave of her hand. She convinces herself that after recharging, she has zero thoughts left for that man. As she continues on, a cheerful voice greets her from just ahead. "Good morning." Suyeon's bright smile falters as she steps into the strangely silent office. The air is thick with unspoken tension, and she wonders what happened. Leaning towards a coworker, she quietly asks about the strange mood. Just then, another woman calls her name. Her friendly expression twists into a knowing, sharp-edged smirk as she poses a single, loaded question. She asks if Suyeon is involved with team leader Han Hee-ju. The words hang in the air, and Suyeon's mind goes completely blank, reeling in utter shock. A voiceover introduces Seo Yoonji, an ordinary office worker who enjoys watching dating shows after a long day. Suyeon scoffs at a contestant on screen who only cares about looks, thinking to herself that she would never be so shallow. Her conviction shatters at the office. A new team leader steps forward, introducing himself as Han Hee-ju. He's strikingly handsome, with a confident smile that seems to make the air sparkle. Suyeon stares, completely stunned, her breath catching in her throat as her hand flies to her mouth in shock. Suyeon's heart pounds in her chest, a warm flush spreading across her cheeks as she gazes at him, completely dazed. She wonders if he was recruited for an acting role. Later, during lunch, her coworkers start gossiping about the handsome new leader. One gushes about his looks, while another chides her for being superficial. As they debate, the spotlight suddenly turns. "What do you think about the team leader, Miss Suyeon?" Suyeon freezes mid-chew, her mouth full and eyes wide with panic, caught completely off guard. Suyeon stammers, unable to give a clear answer. Internally, a small smile plays on her lips as she realizes her coworkers are surprisingly uninterested in the handsome new team leader. This means less competition. The thought warms her. Later, the office buzzes with fresh gossip. A colleague leans in close, whispering conspiratorially that the team leader mentioned he likes brown hair. Another coworker finds his frequent appearances suspicious. Suddenly, all eyes turn to Suyeon. "Do you think he likes Miss Suyeon?" The question makes her gasp, completely flustered. "What?" she blurts out. A coworker laughs, calling her question a trick before playfully wondering aloud if the team leader's interest could be for Suyeon. The thought makes Suyeon's breath catch. Just as she walks into the office, her colleagues stop her, announcing they were just discussing her. They get straight to the point, asking if she thinks the team leader likes her. Suyeon freezes, utterly stunned. "What are you talking about?" Another coworker chimes in, explaining he always appears without reason, before asking directly, "Do you think there's another reason?" Suyeon tries to deflect the attention, nonchalantly asking if it's really something they should care about. A coworker scoffs, agreeing it's ridiculous, and quickly changes the subject. The dismissal stings Suyeon, who realizes with a sinking feeling that she's the only one truly curious about the new team leader. Her gaze drifts across the office, and her heart stops. She sees that same coworker walking away with him, looking comfortable and close. The world seems to tilt, and as she stumbles, a firm arm suddenly wraps around her, pulling her close. It's him. Her mind races as she watches them walk away together, an undeniable closeness between them. Questions flood her thoughts. What kind of relationship do they have? Why does he look at her like there's a shared history? The memory of her co-worker's casual dismissal suddenly feels sharp, deceptive. She realizes with a jolt that woman was messing with her, hiding her own connection to him the entire time. The thought makes the world spin, and just as she stumbles, a strong hand firmly grips her arm, pulling her back. In the office, the whispers start. Both Suyeon and the team leader are gone for the day. Around a meeting table, a colleague tells a woman named Yoonji she should help him out. Confused, Yoonji asks why her. The teasing reply comes swiftly. She's been talking nonstop about his preference for brown hair. Another co-worker groans, tired of hearing it. But then, his eyes widen in realization. He points out that only Suyeon and Yoonji have brown hair on the team. He stares at Yoonji, asking if she was just asking around to hear people say he likes her. Yoonji tries to defend herself, claiming she was just curious if Suyeon was involved in a secret office romance. Another coworker recalls the strange mood between Suyeon and the team leader during a recent presentation, adding fuel to the fire. A sly, self-satisfied thought crosses Yoonji's mind. She decides it's fine to say what she wants. Suddenly, the air chills. Suyeon stands before them, her face cast in shadow, a terrifying smile stretched across her lips. Her voice is deceptively calm as she lays out the entire rumor. So, we used to date, broke up, and now we're back together? Yoonji weakly defends herself, claiming she was just confirming the facts. Suyeon grabs her, completely bewildered, and insists she never met the team leader on her day off. But Yoonji points out that everyone can see how especially kind he is to Suyeon. The accusation pushes Suyeon to her breaking point. She seethes, feeling like everyone has lost their minds. Just as she turns to settle things, a calm voice cuts through the tension. Good morning. Both women freeze. The team leader stands before them, offering a warm, disarming smile. Suyeon's mind flashes back to the beginning of it all, to an angelic smile, and to Shin Jae-hyun's strange behavior. Back then, she had no clue that her everyday life was about to become completely distorted. In a quiet cafe, Shin Jae-hyun sits across from her, his presence filling the space between them. He sets his cup down gently, his intense eyes never leaving hers. A subtle smile graces his lips as he finally speaks, his voice low. So, what's so important that you had to call me over? Suyeon simply stares back, taking a slow sip from her glass. Suyeon dismisses producer Shin's unusually cold attitude, deciding he must just be in a bad mood. With a bright smile, she suggests getting cake and even mentions grabbing a drink at a bar later. In an instant, his hand closes around her arm, pulling her forcefully against him. A wave of heat rushes through her from the sudden contact. He leans in, his voice low as he explains that the company card will cover it. Suyeon freezes, her eyes wide with shock, trapped in his intense stare as her heart hammers against her ribs. His grip tightens as he leans in, his voice dropping to a cold, dismissive tone. He reminds her they aren't a couple and that he'd prefer not to have meetings unrelated to work. Suddenly, a frantic voice screams out from within. In a dark, internal space, the original boyfriend strains against heavy chains, his face flush with anguish. He can't believe the cruel words being directed at Suyeon. A figure with silver hair and an arrogant smirk appears before him, simply ordering him to be quiet and watch. The ghost is clearly in control. Suyeon gazes at a shooting star, her heart aching with frustration. She wonders how, after all the romance webtoons he reads, he still doesn't understand a woman's feelings. She makes a silent, desperate wish for him to act like the daring male leads from those stories, just for once. She turns away, telling him she'll stay at a friend's place. He calls out her name, his voice laced with confusion, but a sudden wave of dizziness crashes over him. His body feels frozen as his vision fades to black. Heavy chains materialize around his wrists, binding him. In an instant, he's in a dark, cold space, his clothes disheveled, completely bewildered. Shin Jae-hyun scrambles to his knees in a cold, dark void, his clothes disheveled. He demands to know where he is, his voice echoing in the emptiness. A calm, disembodied voice informs him that he is inside his own head. From the shadows, a regal figure emerges, explaining that a wish brought this situation to be. He coolly declares that from now on, he will control every action and every word. As Shin Jae-hyun panics, the scene shifts to Suyeon, her cheeks flushed as an overwhelming warmth envelopes her entire body. Shin Jae-hyun's heart hammers against his ribs as an unfamiliar heat floods his system. His cheeks burn as he looks down at his own body, stammering in utter confusion. "This isn't right," he insists, arguing that he doesn't treat Suyeon this way. The regal man before him simply smirks. "Are you sure?" he counters smoothly, his gaze falling on Jae-hyun's flushed state. "Your body seems to say otherwise." He leans in, his gloved fingers tilting Jae-hyun's chin up as he reveals their senses are connected, finishing with a chilling declaration, "I am you." The regal man's voice drips with confidence as he declares he is the version of Jae-hyun that someone else desires. Shin Jae-hyun struggles against his metaphysical bonds, insisting this behavior is wrong. "Do you really think so?" the man counters, a knowing smirk on his face as he tells Jae-hyun to witness the truth. In the real world, a deep blush spreads across Suyeon's face. Her fingers drift to her lips, her expression caught between shock and something else entirely. The realization hits Shin Jae-hyun with devastating force. She doesn't hate it. Shin Jae-hyun desperately argues from his metaphysical prison, insisting there's no way Suyeon would want this. He clings to her words, that she likes kind, good-natured men. But his protests are silenced by a searing vision from the real world. He witnesses the overwhelming intimacy, a wave of heat passing between them. A breathless sound escapes Suyeon's lips as she whispers his name, completely lost in the moment. The undeniable proof leaves Shin Jae-hyun shattered and silent. A triumphant smirk plays on the regal man's lips. "Now look how quiet you've gone." A wave of irritation washes over Suyeon at her desk. Something feels weird, very weird. Her attention drifts to a male colleague speaking warmly with Ms. Yoonji, apologizing for any trouble his sick leave might have caused. The overly kind display makes Suyeon's skin crawl. She glares, disgusted by his earnest expression. He offers to buy coffee, remembering her favorite kind, explaining he simply tries to pay attention to his team. As he walks away, leaving a charmed Ms. Yoonji behind, Suyeon can only seethe in silent annoyance. Ms. Yoonji leans over, offering a flustered apology. She admits her mistake, realizing the team leader's kindness wasn't special treatment for Suyeon, but just his general nature. But Suyeon's annoyance isn't with her gossiping colleague. A deeper, simmering resentment is directed entirely at the man who causes these misunderstandings. Her office reputation is on the line because of his careless charm. A fiery resolve hardens her expression, her hand clenching into a tight fist. She decides she won't hold back anymore and will make sure this never happens again. Fueled by a fiery resolve, Suyeon runs into the parking garage. "Team leader," she calls out, her voice echoing off the concrete. She grabs his arm, stopping him in his tracks. Forcing a tight, angry smile, she asks if they can talk for a moment. Before he can properly respond, she shoves him back against a pillar, trapping him. The air grows thick with sudden closeness. He looks down, flustered, a blush warming his skin as he asks for a little space. His heart, he realizes, is racing. Suyeon just stares, her anger dissolving into pure, wide-eyed confusion. In the grand theater of romance, two types of men always exist. There is the main lead, a cold, indifferent tyrant whose world revolves solely around his lady. Then there is his polar opposite, the second lead, who overflows with gentle charm and warmth. This formula, a fundamental rule of romance, remains unchanged through countless variations. But Suyeon's reality feels different. Her heart pounds in her chest as a nervous thought surfaces. "Could you maybe give me a little space?" she pleads internally. "My heart's racing too fast." Suyeon's mind reels as a wave of heat washes over her. Why is he suddenly acting like a gentle, flustered second lead from a story? The contradiction is dizzying. Later, she confronts him in the stark quiet of a garage. "What are you?" she demands, searching his face for an answer. The mystery only deepens when a colleague mentions feeling unwell since Thursday night. Suyeon freezes. That's the exact time her boyfriend began to change. A critical connection sparks in her mind, a revelation so jarring it makes her heart pound. A colleague's cheerful farewell makes Suyeon flinch, and she dives into a car to escape notice. The door clicks shut, sealing her inside with her ex-boyfriend. Her heart hammers against her ribs. What is she doing? Still, she tells herself it's better than being seen by her coworkers. He breaks the tense silence, gently offering to take her home. He correctly intuits she has something to ask him privately, away from prying eyes. Suyeon looks up, completely surprised by his perception as her mind reels from the sudden turn of events. The car door shuts, sealing Suyeon inside with a sudden wave of regret. Why did she agree to this? Before she can process, the air grows heavy. He leans in close, his breath warm against her skin as he finds a spot on her neck. Her breath hitches, and she whispers a name, Hiju Appa. Flustered, she glances toward the window, her heart pounding. What if someone sees? He simply smirks, his voice a low murmur. My windows are heavily tinted. His hand slides onto her leg. And besides, we're just kissing. Or, his hand rests on her leg as he leans closer, his voice a low whisper. Or, did you want to do something else? Before Suyeon can find an answer, their lips meet, the world outside the tinted windows fading away. The moment deepens, pressing her back until a loud, sudden blare from the steering wheel shatters the illusion. The memory vanishes in a flash. Suyeon gasps, jolted back to the present. She's in the car with her gentle boyfriend, driving through the city at sunset. Get a grip, she thinks, shaking away the vivid scene. She has something she needs to ask him. So, your personality changed since Thursday evening? Suyeon asks, her expression serious. He wants to know what symptoms she's noticed. He explains his own thoughts feel filtered, as if an innate kindness is constantly warring against something dark and nauseating. Suyeon thinks she understands. Then the thing that happened in the parking lot must have been because of your personality change, she reasons. His reply is a quiet, firm no. A soft blush colors his cheeks as he meets her gaze. That was because I was in front of someone I like. Suyeon's mind drifts back. She can't recall the exact wish she made that day, or what force in the world decided to grant it. But she remembers the feeling, a desperate, quiet prayer for Han Hee-ju to stop causing trouble. As the memory of the city skyline fades, she realizes her wish came true. Suddenly, Han Hee-ju is on his knees, bound and furious. Get this off right now, he shouts. The body's involuntary blush makes him livid. Why do you keep blushing so much? You're making me lose face. He struggles, his voice raw with anger. I don't make faces like that. He glares up at the person standing before him, demanding to be freed. A voice cuts through the darkness, refusing to take it off. A man with silver hair materializes, a confident smirk on his lips as he speaks. He explains that until the curse is lifted, they must remain this way, just as the wish-giver desires. The scene shifts. A tall man, the producer, stands before a young woman. She recalls his comment about them not being a couple. That's right, she chirps with a playful laugh, apologizing for overdoing it. She then sweetly asks if he'll still hear her out about the manuscript. He reluctantly agrees, since it's for work. At their work meeting, the producer questions writer Hani about a small continuity error, a wine glass that disappeared between chapters. She dismisses it with a laugh, certain that no one would notice such a tiny detail. His expression remains serious as he explains its importance as a major plot point, stating he only gives feedback to avoid confusing the readers. Her playful demeanor fades. Conceding his point, she immediately pulls out her tablet to make the revision. Later, as the sun sets, a colleague wonders where Jahyun has gone. He learns that writer Hani requested an urgent meeting. They're still having a meeting? He asks, surprised by how long they've been gone together. The producer starts to excuse himself to return to the office, but writer Hani quickly takes hold of his arm, stopping him. With a bright, unwavering smile, she insists they move on to the next piece of feedback. His eyes narrow slightly as he gazes down at her, a realization dawning. As she sweetly asks him to explain the reasoning for another revision, he understands her intention completely. She plans on keeping him here, by her side, until every single detail of her manuscript is perfected to his standards. And that wraps up this part. If you watch till the end, you're a legend, and I truly appreciate you. These videos take late nights, focus, and passion to create, so knowing you're here makes it all worth it. If you enjoyed the ride, love the drama, or just live for epic manhwa like I do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell because the next dark twist, it's coming faster than you think.